presenting Elissa Ashwood. You love it?
Tonight, I'm here to celebrate with you the 1-month anniversary of completing my cancer treatment. Can I get a round of applause? When I was diagnosed with breast cancer earlier this year during my baseline mammogram at 40, and I shared the news, I had an email from a friend who had been diagnosed with colorectal cancer just a couple months earlier, and he wrote, "What, you too?" Well, between the two of us, we have the T and A covered. And I knew then that my cancer treatment was going to be marked by having some fun no matter what. And second, that I was going to get through this thing by surrounding myself with people who were going to give me the confidence that I would be well again. Tonight, I want to share with you my lessons learned about controlling the uncontrollable. Because even when the uncontrollable strikes, we have more power than we recognize. And it's probably Viktor Frankl who said it best and will ever always say it best. He's the concentration camp survivor and psychologist who said, "Everything can be taken from a man or a woman but one thing: to choose one's attitude in any circumstance, to choose one's own way." I want to share with you the story about how I chose my own way and encourage you in your journey of choosing your own way. So this story for me started 3 years ago. I was a top management consultant at the #1 consulting firm that you'd ever want to work at. I was working on really sexy global programs. I was working 60 or 80 hours a week. I think you've heard that as a theme among some of us tonight. And my husband was working a full-time job and doing a PhD, and we have our 2 great kids, and it was Christmas time. And the kids drew us pictures. And Dad's picture was Dad playing video games with the kids and swimming with the kids. And my picture was a laptop and a BlackBerry and nothing else. Yeah, ouch. It pretty much broke my heart. And a few months later, my stepmother, Sandy, who was the healthiest woman that I knew, in her 60s, she still ran 5 miles a day. She ate great, everything healthy you can imagine. And she died very suddenly of cancer. And sitting in her hospital room on the day that she died, one of the things that I realized was that I was still living my life like if I did the work part first, then I could have the life part later. And the problem with that is we don't always get the life part later. It doesn't even have to be through an illness or a death that cuts things short, even if things go perfectly. A lot of times, by the time we're ready to take advantage of the great summer or the fun time at home, that moment is past, and we just weren't there for it. As I was trying to come to terms with my cancer diagnosis early on, before I knew that my prognosis was excellent, I read an article by a woman who was dying from her cancer, and she wrote, "No one ever dies with a finished to-do list." And at the time when I read it, I thought, oh, that is so disheartening. That's exactly how I feel. I need more time to do the things that I want to do. And as I came to terms with it, I realized, wait a minute, that is liberating. If no one ever finishes their to-do list, I don't have to, and neither do you, right? It means that we get to be more selective about the stuff that we choose to do. And then, of course, the question is how, since We already thought we were doing the right things. That's why we were doing them in the first place. And I think the problem is that we're asking the wrong question. When we ask ourselves, well, what do you want? We end up with too long of a list. If we ask ourselves, well, what do you really want? That doesn't really help, right? It's like that's supposed to give us a better answer. I think the clues to the right question are in these 3 recent research findings. The first is that we know from end-of-life studies that at the end of our life, the thing that matters the most to us is how we feel. Second, we know from emerging brain research that the part of our brain that integrates all of our experiences, not just the day-to-day, how we walk down the street, but our entire life experiences, that part of the brain has no language center. So when we ask ourselves, what do I want? It doesn't have a way to pinpoint and answer us. When that part of the brain is engaged, it comes out as a feeling. And a feeling is full of so much data of sights and sounds and smells and tastes. And third, we know from optimal decision-making research, when they look at all the ways that you can make the best big decision that you can. And I would say how we spend our lives is a pretty damn big decision, maybe the biggest one we ever make. If we want to make the best big decision, we should look at our feelings first and then analyze what would it take to get those feelings. Therefore, the question that I would ask myself and that I would suggest to you as a better question is, how do you want to feel? That we should care a lot more about what's on our to-feel list than what's on our to-do list. Because the things that you want to feel, they're a very short list. And you know they are really true for you. You feel them right in your gut. After losing Sandy, I decided that I wanted to feel 3 things. First, I wanted to feel proud, because I work like a Klingon, right? I gear up for battle, I go in to fight, and that is not going to change. That is my personality. I love that. However, I was doing about this much consulting work, but only about this much of it was really making me proud. So I decided to leave my prestigious firm and start my own private practice, Truly Accomplished, so that I could work with individuals and companies to just focus on identifying what are those things that matter the very most, and then dramatically improving performance on those things. And I'm proud to say that on average, we improved their performance over 150%. Very proud. The second thing is I wanted to feel more love in my life. I wanted to love the people who were in my life. I wanted to love the people that were coming into my life. And at Sandy's funeral, one of the things that was so moving to me was that as person after person came up to talk about her, they all talked about having lunch with her, right? And it was amazing. And it reminded me that there's probably no better legacy in life than the time that we spend with people. And such an easy thing to do, to have lunch with your friends. I started having more lunches. I also started treating my family like they were my most important client. And I changed the way that I prioritized what kind of time we spent together. So I put less emphasis on whether we did the dishes and more emphasis on whether we played the board game. And a few months later, it was Mother's Day, and I had a Mother's Day card from my then kindergartner. It was a fill-in-the-blank Mother's Day card, and it said, "My mother is perfect. She likes to play with me. Sometimes she works." Yeah. Now that is motherhood gold. You take that kind of performance review to the bank, because those come along very infrequently. And you know, for just one moment, there's some validation that you're doing it right. And finally, the third thing, and probably the hardest for me, is I wanted to feel beautiful. I wanted to resolve forever this love-hate relationship I had with wanting to feel beautiful, but feeling like that wasn't cool enough, that wasn't very serious, that wasn't very business. I wanted to stop worrying about what my weight was. I wanted to stop worrying about how I looked. I wanted to feel beautiful from the inside out. And once I decided that, it was much easier to exercise and eat right and sleep better. I started reading more romance novels. It was fantastic. Great, really fantastic. And so I felt like I was really doing something right with this to feel list, and it was so much easier to accomplish that. Everything else was getting done, by the way. However, it felt totally different. And I felt like I really had things on lock, and then cancer hit. And it was, I had had surgery, and I was about to start 33 radiation treatments. One every day, Monday through Friday, for about 7 weeks. And I was pretty daunted by the prospect. And I was standing there in my bedroom, looking into my closet and asking myself, well, what does one wear to radiation? And my inner smart aleck said, well, you don't wear a party dress. And my inner rebel said, why not? And I decided then and there that I was going to wear 33 dresses to my 33 radiation treatments. I told my best friend. She made a little video of the two of us as stick figures and talked about what it's like when your best friend has cancer and you're thousands of miles away and you feel like, what can I do? And we said, what you do is you break out the good stuff. You rescue your dresses from the back of the closet. You find the things that you are waiting for a special occasion to use, and you use them now. And you enjoy them. We set up a website, 33dresses.com, and a Facebook page, 33 Dresses. I didn't own 33 dresses. I got them from thrift stores and department stores, and friends sent them to me. Even a designer friend in Paris sent me a dress. It was so fun. And as I started wearing the dresses and blogging, something really magical happened. Hundreds of people joined me, and they started sending in pictures of themselves wearing a cocktail dress eating a slice of pizza, and pictures of their dog with their favorite toy, photographs of flowers in their yard, pictures of wearing a Hawaiian shirt to a business conference, pictures of their kids who had heard about the project and saw their mom wearing a dress and wanted to help. Pictures of people using their grandmother's china cup for the first time in their entire lives because they never had another occasion to entertain, and they poured their Starbucks into it and enjoyed it for the afternoon. What started out as a fun way to lift my spirits turned into something, I think, even bigger and more important than the rest of us sort of realized when we started. I had a note from one person that really moved me, and she wrote, "You have reconnected us to a part of ourselves that we had forgotten was worth celebrating." My treatment is completed, but 33 Dresses will continue on, and I will continue to support people who are going through cancer, continue to remember people we have lost through cancer, and continue to fight for clinical research that will help us to cure cancer. Each week, I'm wearing a dress. This is this week's dress. Yep. And now you are part of it. And I invite you to break out your good stuff and to send us a picture, put it on the website, tell us what you're wearing in memory of or in support of someone who's going through cancer or going through something difficult. And the spirit of 33 Dresses can spread. Because of this project, cancer for me has been kind of beautiful. at the same time, cancer sucks. The person that taught me what it really means to celebrate beauty was my grandmother, Lila. She died of cancer 18 months ago. My grandmother was known for her elegance. She would set the most amazing table. She had all these table linens and all these place settings. She would do flowers and animals and themes, and it was unbelievable and wonderful. She made it beautiful for her family. And I feel so lucky to have been raised in that environment. At the end of her life, she was at home, and my mom was caring for her. And at the very last few weeks of her life, when she wasn't able to get out of bed, my mother set up her bed in the dining room, her favorite place in the house. And it was Christmas time, which was my grandmother's favorite time of year. And my mother decorated the dining room with all of my grandmother's favorite Christmas ornaments. She even strung lights in the backyard so that in the middle of the night when my grandmother would wake up, she could look out and see them. My grandmother died on New Year's Eve, just as the fireworks were going off. It was a beautiful end to a beautiful life. But this isn't just my grandmother's story. This is also the story of my mother, who chose, instead of focusing on the tactical things that needed to be done, or the bills that needed to be addressed, or the paperwork, all of the things that come toward the end of life, she chose to spend that time with my grandmother, making it beautiful. She looks back on that as one of the proudest things she has ever done in her whole life. And that's the thing about doing the things that make us feel the way we want to feel. When we do the things that make us feel the way we want to feel, no one, nothing can take that away from us. It's yours forever. That is controlling the uncontrollable. Thank you.